Okay, so today we're going to talk about the cranial nerves. As we already know, there are actually two nervous systems in the body. There is the peripheral nervous system, which is most of the nerves in the body, and then there is the central nervous system, which is the brain and the spinal cord. The cranial nerves are actually part of the peripheral nervous system. They're attached to the brain, but they're actually not inside the brain. They're running from the brain to the rest of the body. And what you can see here is that the cranial nerves actually are underneath, so they're the bottom side of the brain. And this is the front of the brain. This would be the back. And there's 12 pairs of them, so there's a right and left side, so each nerve comes in pairs. They're numbered 1 through 12, and for some reason they use the Roman numeral system. So you can see like that would be 12 over there, and there's number 1 over there. And they run in this way, from front to back, right? And so nerve number 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on down the line there till we get to 12. Most of these nerves actually control parts of the face, as we'll see, although some of them go a lot further down to the rest of the body. Okay, so here we go. Motor nerves and sensory nerves. So get your coloring books out. Let's try the first one here. So let's go ahead and get a color here. And olfactory. Olfactory means smelling, right? And so that's the first one here. Oftentimes the olfactory nerve is referred to as the olfactory bulb, B-U-L-B, and it is involved in the sense of smell. We did a dissection on the sheep brain, and you saw that the olfactory nerve was quite large in there as compared to the human brain, and size actually matters. So it's bigger because it has to do with sense of smell, which is important to them. The next one down here is the optic nerve. That's nerve number 2. And that one actually crosses over right here. And that little place that it crosses over there, we call the optic chiasma, all right? So we went ahead and saw that because the eyes have bilateral, not bilateral, but contralateral processing, right goes to left and so forth, they cross over right at that point there. Okay. We also found that the olfactory nerve actually goes right underneath there, and so one nerve can set off the other nerve, and that's why, for example, we tend to close our eyes when we sneeze. Okay, so that's number 2. Then we go down here to nerve number 3. That is the ocular motor nerve. So the optic nerve controlled vision. The ocular motor nerve here, that's this one right here, number 3, right? That actually controls the movement of the eyes. So we went ahead and did the pupillary reflex, where you shine a light into the eye and it hits the retina, and the rods and cones then process it via the optic nerve, so that brings information in, and then the motor information comes back out through the ocular motor nerve, which actually moves the eyes. Then we go down to number 4, the trochlear, right? And that's this guy right here. The trochlear is also involved in eye movement. Then we go to nerve number 5, the trigeminal. The trigeminal is called the tri because it actually has 3 different things here. See if we can see a picture of, there we go. So actually there are 3 places we can see here that are actually going to be affected by the trigeminal. So the trigeminal is number 5 right here, like so over there. Okay, if you're kind of getting lost on the functions here, let's go down and review where we are so far. So we've done 1 through 5, right? And we found out the olfactory, right, did sense of smell. The optic obviously does sense of vision. The ocular motor moves the eye. The trochlear also moves the eye. And the one we just did here, the trigeminal, which has 3 different functions, but I've only got 2 here for some reason, face sensation, and mastication, which is a fancy way of saying chewing food. So I think that's the one you should probably remember here, chewing food. Okay, let's go back up here. Now we're at number 6, abducens. Number 6. Abducens is the third one that is actually involved in moving the eyes, right? So there's our third one there, abducens, right? And that's this one right down here and here. Okay? And so if we look back here, that should also be moving the eye, abducting the eye. You don't need to know that. But what I want you to notice is that so far we have 4 nerves that are involved in the eye, but 3 of them, the ocular motor, the trochlear, and the abducens, are actually involved in moving the eye, but the optic is involved in getting sensory information from the rods and cones. Now we go to nerve number 7, is it? Let's see if we get a new color up here. Nerve number 7. How about this one right here? Right, that is the facial nerve, right? The facial nerve is nerve number 7. There we go. And the facial nerve, you can see, has a whole bunch of places that it's going to actually work on. And so let's do nerve number 7. That's the facial here. And that one is right over here. Okay. Facial nerve. So that one is probably going to give us facial expressions, obviously. That makes sense, right? But it also does taste. So number 7 is taste. Let's go back up here. We go to nerve number 8. We've done nerve number 8 before. Let's get a new color for that one. What color can we get? Oh, that's a good one. We've done that before when we studied the ear. The vestibular cochlear comes from the inner ear, the vestibule, which is where sense of equilibrium takes place, and the cochlea, which is where hearing takes place. So that's going to be equilibrium and hearing. That is nerve number 8. There's 8, and 8 is going to be right down here. So this one is coming in from the ear. Let's take a look at that one there. So sure, I was right, hearing and balance. Balance would be the vestibule, hearing would be the cochlea. Let's go down to nerve number 9. Nerve number 9. And what color haven't we used yet? Oh, that's a nice color. I like that. Nerve number 9. That is the glossopharyngeal. Glosso means tongue, right? So that's going to be involved probably in movement of the tongue. That is number 9. There it is right there. And that's wedged in. You can see there's a lot of them wedged in right there. So glossopharyngeal is probably also, there we go, taste and the gag reflex. That's when we eat food that doesn't want to go down there, right? And so just like we have 3 nerves involved in movement of the eye, we actually have 2 that are involved in taste. And that would be the facial here, number 7, and also that would be number 9 here, the glossopharyngeal. Hey, I was just delaying here for a moment because I think they made a little mistake there, didn't we? This one should be vestibulocochlear, should be nerve number 8. Why do they only have 6, 7, should be 8 like that, shouldn't it? Oh well. Somebody made a mistake in a textbook there. Easy to correct. Okay, let's go on to a really important nerve. Nerve number 10, the vagus nerve. That's one of those nerves that if you study the heart, you really need to know that one. So let's get a nice color for that one there. How about, what color haven't we used yet? How about that? That's good. Ooh, that's too light. I think we need a darker color than that. How about gray? That's good. Let's do gray. Oops, sorry, gray. Number 10. So the vagus nerve there. Vagus nerve. There's number 10, right? Way down here. Yes, number 10. Okay, the vagus nerve is super important because that one goes down and controls the heart and controls the stomach and so forth, but it is the big parasympathetic nerve. And parasympathetic means Remember fight or flight and feed and breed, feed and breed. So that one tends to slow down the heart, but it also is involved in secretion in the stomach there of acids during digestion. So vagus is number 10. Okay, almost done here. Now we go to 11, the accessory. That used to actually be called the spinal nerve, but we'll just go ahead and call it the accessory nerve. And we'll get a nice green color for that one there. So we're moving on down the line there. We're down to here. And so that one goes right there. And I think I've kind of overdone where number 12 is going to be. So that one probably controls a lot of stuff in the bottom of the body, yeah? I think they've got a lot of things going here, but they've just given us one, which is the shoulder shrug, which we know is involved in the trapezius muscle. So that's the accessory. And finally, last one is hypoglossal, and there's that glossal again, which tells us something with the tongue that's probably going to go on there. So let's go ahead and get our last color there. Hypoglossal, and I'm sorry, but I kind of wedged it in. It's right down here, isn't it? The hypoglossal. And that also is with the tongue, so that's swallowing and speech, right? So we've got two nerves there that are involved in the tongue area, right? Actually, three now I think about it. So we've got two for taste, but gagging and swallowing would, the glossal ones, would both be involved in the throat there. And that's also speech. Oh, that's interesting. Speech too. Okay. So a lot of functions here. So how are we going to remember all these things? Well, of course, there are mnemonics. So let's first of all look at how we're going to remember the names of them, So there is a mnemonic. On old Olympus towering tops, a Finn and German viewed some hops. Hey, I got to tell you, that's not how I learned it. I actually learned a different one, and I'm just going to write that one up there because I like mine better than this one. So I'm going to give you a different one. The one I learned was on old Olympus tiny tops. Oops, didn't spell tiny right, did it? Tiny tops. A friendly, well, let's make it capital. A friendly Viking grew vines and hops. Hey, that's the one I always learn there. I like that one better than this one there. Let's put a big X in there. I don't like that one at all. You know, let's get a dark, evil color to X it out with. Yeah, I don't like that. Let's do mine. On old Olympus tiny tops, a friendly Viking grew vines and hops. So let's do it. On old, so what do we have? Olfactory, optic, ocular motor, tiny tops, that'd be trochlear and trigeminal. A friendly Viking, that's abducens, that's facial. Vestibular cochlear, grew vines, that's glossopharyngeal, and number 10, vagus vines, accessory, and then hypoglossal. On old Olympus, tiny tops, a friendly Viking grew vines and hops. So that's how you remember the 12 nerves in order here. And then some of them are motor nerves, that is, they do things. Some of them are sensory nerves, that is, that they bring in information. And some of them actually do both things. So we know, for example, that the optic nerve, number 2, is sensory. It gets information from the rods and cones. We know the nerve number 3, the ocular motor, is a motor nerve. How are we going to remember those? Well, there's another mnemonic, and this one I like. This one I'm going to stay with, right? So this one is, some say marry money, but my brother says, bad business? Marry money. So if you got a bad business, you should marry money. Some say sensory, sensory. So there's that optic number 2 is a sensory. Marry money, that was that ocular motor. Number 3 is a motor. Some say marry money, but my brother says bad business, marry money. So let's do one, for example, vagus, remember, was really important. That one went to the heart. That one is both, right? Okay. Hey, let's just go ahead and look over this again. What would be super important to know for a quiz here, right? Well, obviously you need to know the names of the nerves. So if I said, what is nerve number 4 on old Olympus, tiny trochlear, 1, 2, 3, 4, got it. So you need to know what number they are. You need to know if they're motor or sensory. So some say marry money, but my brother says bad business, marry money. And the third thing you want to know is you want to know some of the functions. So for example, I might say which ones are involved in moving the eye, right? And you would say, that is the ocular motor, the trochlear, and the abducens. Got it. Or I might say, for example, which ones are involved in swallowing. And you would say, let's see, swallowing, that's the glossal. So that would be this one and this one, right? Or I might say, which one is involved in regulating the heart, right? And you would say, oh, that's the vagus. I remember that one. That's the vagus. Or I might say, which one is involved in hearing? That's the vestibular cochlear. Or which one is involved in smelling? Well, you guys get the idea. Okay, lots to study. Go ahead and see if you can get this into your cranial nerves, and then we'll go ahead and try a quiz on it.